What's up guys, welcome back to my channel, and today I actually have some really good news that I'm finally going to announce on the channel. If you follow me on Instagram, you already know that I've been working on this cosplay for a while, but I haven't really gotten far enough in it to officially post a video on it or anything. But now I finally have some footage that I could actually put together and make an actual video out of. So today I'm going to announce that I've been working on a Spider-Man Noir cosplay from Spider-Man PS4. The Spider-Man Noir costume was one of those suits that I immediately kind of fell in love with. So if you know me personally, you know that I really like to dress in like black clothing. I think it really looks the best on me. It's just something that I really enjoyed wearing, and I always found clothes that were very comfortable and they were always all black, and sometimes I would wear like whole blacked out looking like the Grim Reaper, not even really noticing it until like later on after I've been outside for a while. So eventually later on, when I actually saw the suit in Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, seeing the suit on that game was actually what really grabbed my attention to it. So when the game Spider-Man PS4 came out, the one suit that I was really hoping that was in the game was Spider-Man Noir, and when I finally saw it and I was actually able to play with it and go around the building swinging around in it, I got my cosplayer's persona to really want to make an accurate and really good looking version of the suit in real life. So since the game came out, I've actually been working on this game, so it's been actually a couple months in the process, and there's been a ton of failures along the way. So this was meant to be a piece in the final part of the cosplay. After I've learned some more things and really thought it through, I decided this is just going to be a prototype for now. So after Peter Parker gets his powers, which I'll talk a little bit more about in a few seconds. In this part of the universe, it's the 1930s during the Great Depression, and his Uncle Ben actually used to be in the Air Force as a fighter pilot during one of the World Wars. I can't remember which one. So he grabbed that, he grabbed Uncle Ben's trench coat, he grabbed Uncle Ben's uniform, altered it, and made it into his Spider-Man costume. So I just want to show you how far I did get before making this video. This is a prototype. I'm not going to use it in the final piece because it doesn't fit right for reasons I'm going to talk about right now. So the way that this version of Spider-Man got his powers was, so Peter Parker was actually following some of this Green Goblin's henchmen. The henchmen actually accidentally drop a statue of a spider god. A whole bunch of spiders just emerged from the statue that was broken, and it was rumored that any of these spiders, if they were to touch anything that was alive, it'll immediately kill them. So the spiders just sort of just disappear, but one of these spiders actually make it to where Peter Parker is scouting out, and this spider bites him, so it causes Peter Parker to hallucinate, and he starts freaking out, and then immediately just presented with the spider god. In that hallucination thing, the spider god tells Peter that the spiders only kill people that are deserving of it. Like, the spiders only kill bad people, but the spider god sees worthiness in Peter Parker and decides to behold him with some of the spider powers and gives Peter Parker these powers. Peter Parker actually has organic web fluid like Tobey Maguire did and the Sam Raimi trilogy. So that's something that I really wanted to get across right now, because in the Spider-Man PS4 video game, the Spider-Man Noir costume does have web shooters. So I don't really know the full purpose of giving the Spider-Man Noir costume some web shooters. So I wanted to get that out of the way before people start coming into the comments saying that the Spider-Man Noir does not have web shooters because they are organic, but they are in the PS4 game, so I am going to put them in this costume. So as I just told you, I was making the aviator hat for the Spider-Man Noir costume, but something I realized along the way was it'll be best if I made myself a face shell. So I actually made that aviator hat to fit my head perfectly, but I didn't take into account the face shell, so it's actually too small to fit with me while I have the face shell on. So that's just the prototype. I'm glad that I had the practice to make it, so now that I could actually make it well. So the reason why I need a face shell, and why most cosplayers like to do Deadpool or the other Spider-Man cosplays, they always have a face shell, is because Spider-Man has a flat face when he's in the costume, and most other superheroes do also. And the reason for a face shell is to look a lot more accurate to whoever you're cosplaying as, because if you don't have it on and you put on a latex or spandex mask over your head, you're gonna see all of the features. You're gonna see your eyebrows, you're gonna see your cheeks, you see your nose, you see your nostrils, you see your lips, you see your chin, you see everything. So people put on a face shell to hide and make their face seem a lot more flat and smoother. And there are some face shells that only cover the top half of your face so that you can actually express movement in your mouth. which is also great, and I think is actually a really good idea if you want to actually like show a little more expression while you're in the mask. But the thing about me is that I actually have pretty big lips, so if I were to put a mask over my head, you would see my lips because they will be protruding out like the most, besides my nose obviously. So I need a face shell to make my face flatter and accurate. But I actually go online and I start looking for face shells, and I see them for over $200, some over $300. And something I realized is I might buy one of these face shells and they might not fit my head properly. They might be too big or they might be too small, and they're just not gonna end up looking good in the final cosplay. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and try to make the face shell that fits my head exactly. So in order to do that, I had to make a vacuum chamber. So in this video, I'm going to show you the process of me making a really cheap vacuum chamber and how to make a face shell that fits your head exactly. So I've been talking a long time, so I guess it's pretty much time to send you off into the video. So I hope you guys enjoy this cosplay that I'm making. I hope you guys enjoy the video of me making the face shell. This process can be used for any other face shells. You just have to do your own little altercations to it. So with all that said, I hope you enjoy the video. Okay, so what you see here is me making a duct tape replica of my head. Basically what I do is put a plastic bag over my head, which is the main thing that adults told you not to do, just in case you suffocate and die. I cut out some holes so I could see and I could breathe, and then I started wrapping my head with duct tape. And what the plastic bag is for is so you don't stick duct tape directly to your skin or your hair and don't rip anything off. But the thing is, this could be a really dangerous thing that you do, so I really recommend you doing this with somebody so that they could do the spots that you probably missed in the back, or just in case you do accidentally cut off your airways, they could help you and do that thing where you breathe. I've done this a couple of times, so I like know what to do, but even then I still recommend you having someone there. Okay guys, so here is the duct tape head of myself. You can see on the inside I filled it with resin and I just sloshed it around there until it got thick and dry, and now it's like harder. So now what I'm gonna do is put some of this expanding foam in there. What this is gonna do is it's gonna seal it. It's gonna fill in all the empty space that's in there, so that this way when I put clay over it or anything else, like take a mold out of this, it's not gonna cave in on itself. Alright, I don't know how much y'all could see, but it's pretty much up to my eyes. So I'm gonna let that sit. Actually, I might actually put more. I could always cut some out. How about that? I could always cut some of them out. Alright, so what this foam's gonna do, it's gonna expand and it's gonna fill in most of the empty space, but I don't want too many bubbles in here. So I'm just gonna place this. It's just styrofoam. I'm just putting it on top, and it's gonna be least likely that any foam is gonna come out of there. Alright guys, so I'm about to start covering this. You can see that I was trying to put some Bondo to try to make it as smooth as possible, but I don't really need to do that. But here you can see I have monster clay, and I put this in the microwave, and something that's important to take note is you can see here the inside is gooey. That's because I microwaved it. So the top here is still hard, but the middle is really hot. So if I would have because you can see like it's soft here, if I would have just tried to grab it, I would have burned myself on this melted clay right here. So just be careful with that, to keep that in mind. So I just have it like a skewer stick, like for barbecuing. And right now I'm just gonna go ahead and just place it on. Alright, here we go. So after some more looking at pictures of the game and trying to get it as replicated as possible. Wow. So you can see here that I am actually cutting off a piece of the head, and basically the reason for that is there's going to be too much space between the back of the head and the top of the face for the plastic to wrap all the way around. So I decided to just cut off a lot of the excess so that it's going to be a lot less difficult for the plastic to stretch over it, because if the model that you're vacuum forming is way too big, sometimes the plastic gets really thin in some places, and I did not want that on my face shell, so I decided to just cut off the piece. Alright, so this is what I'm dealing with. Here's the little vacuum chamber that I made so far. So underneath is a piece of plywood, and the sides, it's 22.5 by 25 inches. And something that I want to say before I sealed it, here is a piece of just foam that I cut out and I put a little hole in it. What I'm going to do is stick it on the inside, and after that I'm going to drill a hole down the middle, and this is going to act as another sealant for the vacuum when you stick it in, so that less air is to escape when you're doing it. It's just nailed together, and it's sealed together with wood glue, and I put some on the edges too so that air doesn't leak out. And something to note is when you're cutting the plywood, you want to give a little extra, like maybe 1/8 of an inch on each side, but when you put it on, it's less likely that you're going to underdo it, and afterwards you could sand it and so it's exactly the right fit. So I'm going to do the exact same thing on the top. Here's the piece of plywood, and you can see when I do the edges, there's a lot of excess hanging off the sides. So after I cut out the hole and glued that little piece of foam in, I'm gonna glue it down, and then I'm gonna put some screws in there, and that's it for now. Afterwards I'm gonna drill some holes in. I don't know if this is necessarily true, but these little knots in the plywood, I heard somewhere that I should put wood glue in those as well, because it's possible the air will leak out of them, but that's something to keep note if it is true. So here's the current status of it. Everything's cut, every hole is cut 2 inches apart. Here's the hole. You can see the foam down in there to keep as a seal, and something that I'm doing right now is just putting some wood glue all across these cracks so that it just seals better. Okay, so now just for funsies, I'm just gonna prime it, paint it black so that it hides a lot of these little markings that I made. So this is the frame that I made to hold the plastic while I stick it in the oven. So each piece of wood is about 1/2 inch thick and 1.5 inches wide. I don't really have like a good purpose for that. It's just I wanted something that was thick enough and strong enough to where it didn't take up too much space, but it will be tough enough to hold this down. So this long piece of wood is 22.5 inches, and these two smaller pieces of wood are 15.5 inches. And that means from this point to this point is about 18.5 inches. They're held together by these screws and some wing nuts. So if I were to just take these off, I could go ahead and remove this top layer, and you can see I have 2 pieces of thick metal wire in here. All I did was drill a tiny little hole for these to fit in, and I just bent these to shape and just hammered them in. And that's really up to you and how thick and wide your oven is. I was able to just hit mine in enough to where with both sides it was able to fit inside my oven and fit properly. And this one also have these holes for these screws. They're just slightly bigger so that it's easier to slide them in and off. You can see that these 2 screws actually go into the plastic, and the reasoning for that, when you put this in the oven, it's possible that the plastic would just kind of droop in. It'll leave the framing, so I keep these in here so that it holds the plastic there and it won't go into itself. When you're drilling the holes for the other screws, you want to make sure that you give yourself enough space to fit the plastic onto it, and that you don't accidentally make it too small for this plastic to go, or else you'll just have to be cutting the plastic and it could just ruin the effect. Keep them close, but not to where it'll interfere when you put this plastic on. So let me just take the plastic out, and you can see the bottom part of the frame. So the measurement for this bottom part is the exact same as the top, and you can see that only the middle 2 screws are the only ones not tight enough to actually hold the screws in, and that just helps me with drilling the holes through the plastic. But for all these screws, they're tight enough to where it's not gonna slip out, and that it holds its place and it's not just gonna fall apart. As for constructing the frame, it's just wood glue on the edges and 1 screw, which you really have to be careful for, or you're gonna end up splitting the wood. So I recommend finding a drill bit kind of like this one, a lot smaller obviously, to where it's thick enough to hold the screw but not too tight, or it is gonna split the wood because it's so close to the edge. Another thing that I did is for these screws that go in the bottom one, I drilled in a slightly bigger hole, but I barely went into the wood so that it kind of like sinks into the wood. And as you can see here, this is the reason why. Okay, so now that I spray painted the vacuum form machine, I added this window sealant so that when I place the frame with the plastic on top of this, it's gonna create a airtight seal so the air doesn't just leak out from the bottom of it. So it's pretty much like a rubber, and you could get this at Home Depot. So I made these pieces go in a little bit so that way when I take this out of the oven and I place it on here on the window sealer, these screws are gonna come out extremely hot, and if I were to just place it on this window sealer, the hot metal could actually probably melt the rubber window sealer. So that was something that I had to keep in mind. So this is everything, the box with holes drilled in and a piece of foam in where the vacuum goes in, and then this bottom piece with the screws attached and these metal screws going into it, and then the plastic you're going to be using, and then the top part of the frame. You put all of these wing nuts back onto the screws. You could also see that I added markers so that I know which way the frame sticks onto it. Just makes it a little easier to find out how to do it instead of just like flipping it around and trying to decide how it fits on. And then you stick this top part into the oven. So when you see the plastic start to droop down enough and you think it's finally time to take it out, you want to make sure that you have the vacuum on before you take this out. You have whatever you want here in the center, and then you just place this gently on top, and then you push down the frame so that there's more of a seal, and then the vacuum sucks all the air out of the empty space and it forces the plastic to wrap around whatever you have. So now here's me actually doing the process, and I hope you guys enjoy and follow along. I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a sneak peek to it drooping. I don't recommend that you keep opening and checking your oven if you have the light, but you can see it's there dripping a lot and it's actually ready. So it's a good thing I recorded this. Make sure you put gloves and safety gear on. I'm gonna turn on the vacuum so it doesn't get loud. So you saw the vacuum forming process. There's some parts that actually didn't go all the way through. I'm using a wet towel just to kind of cool it off a bit faster. But this is good. This is it. You can see where I left the indentions before. So basically what happened is the plastic, instead of doing this, where it creases up, it went just a little bit inside of the crease that I made, the little divot or trench or whatever that I made. So instead of having something like this sticking out of your face shell, it actually went in just a little bit and it saved it from being totally messed up. So I'm gonna go ahead and let this cool. Don't touch these metal things at all, or you will burn yourself. So I'm just gonna wait for it to cool all the way, and then I'm gonna cut all this off. Okay, so now that the plastic has dried, I could talk about some of the things like what I liked, what I didn't like, what I think I could like improve on the next piece. So first off, what I did like, I did what I asked it to do. I'm glad that I put in these little divots, because if you can see here on the back, this one almost didn't make it, and that's things because I made this one a bit deeper. So if I didn't make this one deep enough, this crease right here would have went all the way up, and this entire part would have had to been cut off and it would have been all messed up. I don't really have much to say on what I liked. It did exactly what I knew it was gonna do. I think everything about the box was fine. So now the things that I need to improve on next time. So if you remember, I used monster clay when I was sculpting the brain, or not the brain, I was sculpting the head. And the problem with monster clay is that it melts when it heats up. So when I was putting this hot plastic on top of the monster clay was actually melting underneath it. So if you can see here, here's the boxed part, and you can see there's a bit of clay that dripped onto it from the mask. Look at the underside, you can see the clay trying to escape. Now another thing that I think I could have done to make this better, I actually should have left a little more space under the head so that, as you can see right here, the plastic didn't form all the way down here on that little jaw line right here. So if I would have made this go up a little more, the plastic probably would have went into it and it would have fixed it. But as for me right now, I can actually heat this up and move it to form and to fit exactly where it's supposed to. So I'm not really worried about that right now. Also, you can see like deep in there, the melted clay. So actually when I take this off, the clay is actually gonna be all messed up. And it's actually a lot harder for me to take off because it's like attached to here. So I think next time I'll make like a mold and I'll cast another piece from the clay next time. So that's pretty much it. All that's left is to take off all these wing nuts and show me taking off the plastic. Okay guys, so I actually took a lot of the foam out and then I got a clamp and I'm actually just squeezing the head together so I can get as much space as I possibly can from here. After a lot of hard work, I got this out. So this is the easiest part to clean. I have some cuts and stuff on my arms, but that doesn't matter to me anymore, honestly. Well, now I just gotta clean this up, which should be pretty easy. So here's the face shell. I did cut out the eyes already. I did some cleanup around all the edges. When I was trying to take it off of the head, I was like pulling on this plastic, so it did deform a little bit, so I had to use my actual heat gun, just heat it in some places and then like try to move it back. There's enough space for me for my ears to go through. It goes far back enough and it goes down a bit so that everything fits flush on my head. Here's the inside. There's a little part over here under the chin, and I actually really like that because it helps the thing stay on. Okay, so now that I have the face shell in the proper shape and how I want it to be, I could actually start drilling some more holes into it. So basically what these holes are supposed to be are vents, because you can see this is plastic. If I just put this over my head, it's gonna trap a lot of my own heat inside of it. And not only that, but I'm already going to have pretty much a leather mask going over my head, so it's already going to be as constricted as possible, especially up here on top because that's where all the leather is, and then do some more down here. And something I decided that I'm going to do is here I have some, I believe it's called spacer mesh. So this is a pretty thin sheet. So I decided that I'm going to go ahead and take some of these and put it on the inside. That way the moisture from my breath, if I'm talking to people, it's not going to go through and it's going to show on the gray mask that's going to be over my mouth. So that's the plan. A whole bunch up here and a couple down here to help me breathe and cool down a bit. Now that I have all these holes in it, it doesn't make it any less resilient. It's still really tough. It's not gonna break, and it's actually a lot easier to breathe in here now. Okay, so I just sprayed the back of the spacer mesh with some spray adhesive, and then I stuck that into the inside of the face shell. And now the spacer mesh is going to catch the moisture from my breath and maybe a little moisture from just regular sweat from the heat inside. And now I am done. I have finally finished the face shell, and I could finally post this video, so hope you enjoyed. Alright guys, so that's the video on how I made my face shell. I know it's a pretty long video, but I did have to get a lot of information across. It's not only me making the face shell, it's me making the vacuum forming machine. So there's a lot of stuff that I had to get across. I hope that I didn't make things too confusing explaining everything. I really liked the idea I had of putting the spacer mesh in it. It's not really something that I see in other face shields. If it is, I guess I just haven't done enough research. I think that's a really good idea, and I think you should do it because not only does it make the face shield a little more comfortable, it helps with the moisture of your breath, like I said. And even if you have like a darker mask and the breath is not really going to show on the mask, it's still a good idea because the moisture from your breath is still gonna go onto the plastic. So it's just gonna be a lot more comfortable just to have the spacer mesh here on the mouth and here on the forehead. So that is the face shell. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, go ahead and leave them in the comment section. If you're gonna make your own, I wish you luck. I hope that yours turns out great. I hope it fits you well. There's the face shell. It's really comfortable. It fits well. It stays on. And it's light, so it's not going to drag down your mask while you have it on. So I hope you guys enjoy the video. I said it already. Leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe to my channel, please, and share with people you think might be interested in this sort of stuff. So good luck with making yours, and that's really all I have to say in this video. I'm sorry that it was long. If the length kind of made it confusing, let me know in the comments, but there was a lot of information I had to get across. So with all that said, I'll see you in my next project, and I'll talk to you guys later.